G'day guys, welcome back to Survivor Week 1 Power Rankings Part 2 for Australia vs the World. We've gone through the bottom 5 and now we're going to go through the rest of the players who are left in the game. I'll put the link to the Part 1 in the comments down below. So we've got number 9 is Shonee. Shonee, I think, was probably better off not working with George long term in the game. However, having a fixation on trying to vote off just one person in the game and that being your main goal, a la, say, Jerry from Survivor All Stars way back in the day against Colby, you're probably not going to vote that well for a game. It was hard for me to see Shonee sort of getting to the end and earning the respect from the jury. As I think it looks like this is actually going to be a final 3. So she's got 2 people from this amazingly stacked cast she has to beat at the end. And she doesn't seem to have any really solid alliances. And as much as I think Sarah is sort of has the wrong mindset in the game at the moment, hence why I ranked her a few spots back, I think Sarah is coming for her still and really wants her out. So it is a very roundabout way to want to get back at Kirby by trying to take out Shonee. But I think Kirby's very keen to keep Shonee. And I don't think Luke and Janine are going to have anything against working with Shonee potentially in the future. Shonee's also someone that if they do go to merge with the World Tribe in the numbers, and if the World Tribe did stick together, at least early on in the merge, I think Shonee would be the last person they'd target as far as being a threat goes. She's very likeable, but she's not as good of an actual player as I think anyone else in the cast, which says how great this cast actually is. It's kind of amazing. So the next person in the power rankings we're going to count down. We've gone through in the previous video, obviously, Tommy, Tony, Sarah, and the 3 people who were voted off. The next person we're going to get to is Janine. So Janine is currently on the outside. She also has a really uphill battle to try and win at the end. Not so much because people won't respect her, but because she's already got a lot of money. I mean, obviously, there's a lot made of people like Tony and David already won so much money already from reality TV, but it does dwarf in comparison to how much Janine's net worth is, and that's going to be really difficult, especially if she goes to the end with her number 1 ally, Luke, who has every reason in the world to get more money for his kids, and people would feel a lot better about voting for Luke, I think, than Janine, especially if they go through the game together, and with Luke also having an immunity idol, that kind of gives him another extra point in front of the jury. Luke's a little bit better at challenges, so it's more likely that he's going to win more individual immunities if he gets to the end with Janine. So I think Janine's in a really tough spot. Luke is her one ally in the game, but I can also see Janine joining up with the women on the World Tribe. So that is one avenue she could take to have more success. And if she can take over a leadership position on that tribe, easier said than done, but she may get enough respect in the end that it just trumps everything she has outside of the game and her lack of need for the money, really. So Janine, I think, is in a tough spot, currently on the outside in the Australian tribe, but it's been so fluid, and I don't think there's much stability there anyway. So I think there's only one person who is in pretty much in the core of that group, and if anything, at the moment, it is Luke and Janine on the outside with the 3 other women in the majority. But obviously, Sarah wants to take out Shonee, so I think that's why I'm putting Janine and Luke above Shonee. Anyway, jumping over to the World Tribe now, and next up we have Lisa. So Lisa is in a really good spot. However, I just put her lower because she's, I think, not great at the challenges, although she was great at that last immunity challenge, and she's doesn't have an idol and doesn't have a clue to an idol, and does seem like, if anything, the 4th in that sort of all women's alliance on the World Tribe. So Lisa could be in a bit of trouble. I think Lisa has a chance to jump over and work with the Australians as well, but yeah, we're definitely getting to the point where people who are in a pretty good spot in the game. She has done great so far, but I think one thing that was from a purely logical standpoint, and there's some people in the comments for the previous video who pointed this out to me, that voting off Rob instead of voting off Parvati in that first vote may not have been the best move. And I think Lisa was the one out of Tommy and Casson herself who was the main one who made that decision to jump on board with the Americans, because she loves Cirie, and you could sort of tell if you watch that episode closely, she did not really like Rob much at all. There wasn't much rapport there at all. It was like when she got knocked over by the wave, and Rob joked around that like, "Oh, we've lost one already. We don't have to go to tribal council," and Lisa didn't laugh. And I was like, yeah, there was a few little scenes like that which kind of showed that Lisa was not into Rob at all. So basically we got Lisa sort of at the back a little bit more, but she's a very good player, so she could very well get herself up a little bit further in the rankings. Speaking of very good players, we have Luke coming in next. So Luke is phenomenal. I've always said he's the best Australian player of all time, but I think Kirby is giving a run for his money. Kirby's been fantastic this season and really proven how good of a social player she is. She is very aggressive with how she votes, and it's a bit like sort of she's very not scared to target the big players, very similar to sort of like Luke in his seasons, especially Luke's first season. And I think Kirby playing that kind of style is really going to work for her this season, because it's only really big targets out there. You've always got to make big moves, and it's a very short game, so sitting around and waiting is not going to do you as good, because there's just less people, so it's more likely you'll get targeted without doing anything wrong. Whereas on bigger tribes with bigger casts, you can kind of like sit back and hide for a little while. But it's the Kirby Sarah situation is very interesting, and it could be we could end up seeing Kirby jump on board with either Sarah or Shonny, or we could see her just jump on board with Luke and Janine. And it looks like there's a very good possibility that Luke and Janine can flip over someone from the from that trio of women and have them join their side. Wouldn't shock me at all. So Luke is a phenomenal social player, and I've sort of talked about Kirby just then, but I'll put Kirby as my next player in the power rankings. We kind of merge them together, but I think they're both in a really good spot, even though technically Kirby's in the very loose majority right now. But I think both of them do have a tough road ahead when it comes to taking down and getting into that sort of top three. And the top three, it's probably pretty obvious who they are. You got Parvati, you got Cirie, and you've got Cass. Cass I put in Cirie I put in number 3. Now this is the big fault in Cirie's game. I've always said I think if I had to pick the best social strategic player in Survivor history, it's Cirie. And you can say, oh, why is she like that? Because she's never won. I'm like, well, she hasn't won because she can't win a challenge. And even when it gets down to lower numbers towards the end, there are so many people who, once you get around to the final 6, final 5, final 4, it does get to the point where, like, okay, this person's clearly the best player. In so many seasons in the past, I'm referring to, it's just this person's the best player, and then they do actually manage to win their way to the end. There's been so many Survivor winners who have done that, and Cirie, even at the final 4, is just never been able to do that. There was a final 3 in Micronesia. Parvati threw the challenge, and still she got beaten by Amanda. And to be fair, Amanda has shown that she is quite good at those challenges, where, like the Micronesia challenge in the final 3, where you just stand there holding something still. But it's going to be a tough ask, and I think that the final endurance challenges in Australian Survivor have typically been, they do those endurance challenges at the end, and usually you have to stand on something. There's been a lot of stuff where you have to like stand on very narrow footholds, and a lot of them have been just variations on hand on a hard idol, which is the old school back in the day final challenge, which always used to be the final 3 challenge, and that could crop up again at the final 4, which I think it'll be the final 4 will be the final challenge. And I don't picture Cirie doing well in that game either, especially if she goes to the end with someone like Parvati, someone like Cass. They're both going to be really good at this challenge. There's a few other people as well who could be really good. Like I can see Sarah being good at it. I can see Tony honestly being. I think Cirie is the worst chance of winning a challenge like that, and I think then, you know, someone will get brought to the end, and Cirie will lose in fire. I just see it happening. Cirie needs to get better at challenges. That's all there is to it. Like, yeah, I'll always say I think she is the best player in as far as strategy and social game goes, but you got to be able to win those challenges, unless you can come off as like such a smaller threat that people will want to bring you to the end. And I don't know if Cirie can ever do that. Yeah, even if she gets to the final 4, I still think Cirie will be the 4th place. I think if I had to bet anything, Cirie's 4th, because I think she's in a really good spot to get to the end. She's in the majority tribe at the moment, but yeah, I think Cirie's got a lot of hard work, and if she gets there, I'd be so happy. That is my number one fingers crossed, hoping for that scenario, but so far it's not happening. And you even saw when like Tony came back, when they were kind of cover up the fact that the key was on, the padlock was unlocked, and they'd found the key. Like Cirie was the one who was actually, Cirie was the one who actually like led the lying to Tony. Parvati didn't know what to say. She was like kind of stuck. Whereas Cirie was the one who actually like, convinced Tony, it basically changed the subject and started talking to Tony about random things. I was looking, but I'm just tired. That sort of thing. Yeah, there's been so many instances. Like Cirie bringing over Lisa really was the key to them voting off Rob. Parvati kind of sabotaged her game a bit more in the end by, making herself a target to Rob when really she shouldn't have been the target out of the Americans. You want to take out the biggest threat, you take out Tony. You want to take out the biggest challenge weakness, you take out Cirie. Parvati should have been safe that first vote, but she kind of made herself a bigger threat. And I think Cirie bringing over Lisa is the thing that really got the Americans the numbers and convinced everyone just to unanimously vote off Rob. So I've got Cass at number 2 because I think she seems to just be clicking with Cirie and Parvati really well. If anything, I think it is a trio with Lisa as the 4th. That's why I've got Cass higher. And she has an idol, which in a game with less people is even more important. So that's why people like Luke and Cass who have an idol, and possibly Parvati, if she can get it from the podium, we'll see. That will be very exciting. It will mean so much more this season. So yeah, I think Cass and Parvati are safe for the time being, and I've sort of put Parvati at number 1 just because she's got Cirie there. I think she's very highly respected, and I think if push comes to shove, if they do play similar games and vote the same way the whole way, I think if Parvati's in the end with Cass, which could very well happen, I think they'll probably vote for Parvati just out of perception that Parvati is a more influential player than Cass. Even if it isn't necessarily true, because I think Parvati is the most overrated player in Survivor history. As much as I love her as a character, she's gotten very, very lucky through the years. And she's a very good player, but she's not top 5, which I think pretty much everyone have a top 5 players of all time. Anyway, I can make a whole video on Parvati versus Cirie. But one thing Parvati can do is win challenges in the end. And she is certainly a good enough player that you do trust her decision making through most of the game as well. She's not Cirie, but then again, practically no one is. But I think Parvati can win the challenges at the end. I think we've already seen that Parvati's still in great shape. And yeah, I think it's Parvati's game to lose at the moment. But the World Tribe are only one member up, so it's still, if the Australian Tribe can sort of pull back one player, it's game on again. So we'll see. It's been a season that's somehow lived up to the hype. Don't know how, but it actually has. I really thought that the pre-game alliances would run the game, and it's been way more fluid than that, especially on the Australian Tribe, which I thought would be dominated by this, just this 4-person alliance of Luke, David, Sarah, and Janine, who all kind of knew each other or had played together before. And no, that's not what happened at all. It was Sarah's decision to sort of like not want to work with David ended up being a great decision for the show, and that really is kind of what led Kirby to have the confidence to push for David in the first vote, and since then it's just been absolute chaos. It's been fantastic, so let's hope it keeps up. At the moment, really rooting for Cirie, Tony, and Luke. They're definitely my favourites, but I think Tony especially might be in big trouble. He might have to really pull a rabbit out of a hat, even though he's played a fantastic game so far. He's done everything he can in a cast which really doesn't help him, so I haven't mentioned Tony in this video because I mentioned him in the last video, but so I thought I might give him a shout out here because love me some. I'm Team TV all the way. So yeah, really enjoying it. Can't wait for this for the episode tonight, and get into week 2. Can't wait.